for suspecting endometriosis, although several screening tools and tests have been proposed and tested, none are currently validated to accurately identify or predict individuals or populations that are most likely to have the disease. Endometriosis can often present symptoms that mimic other conditions and contribute to a diagnostic delay. Ovarian endometrioma, adhesions, and deep nodular forms of diseases often require ultrasonography or magnetic resonance imaging (MRI) to detect. Histologic verification, usually following surgical laparoscopic visualization, can be useful in confirming diagnosis, particularly for the most common superficial lesions. Treatments are based on individual preferences and effectiveness, side effects, long-term safety, cost, and availability. Raising awareness can help people to be diagnosed early. Early treatment can slow or halt the natural progression of the disease and reduce the long-term symptoms. In Kenya, the estimated 200 million women who live with the disease. Dealing with it is a battle they fight daily. Patients who could benefit from medical symptomatic management are not always provided with treatments due to limited awareness of endometriosis among primary healthcare providers. There is nothing normal about painful period or menstruation cramps. Not all pain is endometriosis, but no pain should be felt. In case there is any pain, visit your doctor, get checked, and get treated.
Indeed, what a loss to the country, particularly for a huge advocate of such conditions. And she was at the forefront of calling on the government to really put up measures and do more research concerning endometriosis, where a lot of women suffer in silence. And indeed, she has been lost and she will be mourned. May she rest in peace. Ian Njoroge, 19 years of age, was arraigned in court on Tuesday morning following his arrest in Jacaranda. The young man, captured on camera assaulting a 55-year-old police officer, faces 3 charges: violent robbery, causing grievous harm, and resisting arrest. According to the charges aired on EBN television, they relate to causing obstruction, carrying excess passengers in his vehicle, and disobeying instructions given by a traffic officer. Senior Principal Magistrate Martha Nanzushi released him on a bail of 60,000 shillings and a bond of 100,000 shillings. The case will be mentioned on June 18th for a pre-trial conference.
Criminal case number 351 of 2016, in a high court in Milimani, court was very clear that seriousness of the offense per se is not a reason to deny bail. Even if they are to charge him of murder or attempted murder, to make the offense appear serious before unsuspecting court users, it would not have been enough to deny him bail. Therefore, pray, Your Honor, that you consider the state, including the prosecution, not to have tendered anything before you, work determination, for the reason that there is no affidavit on record, even a poorly drafted one, to demonstrate that they lacked time to do a proper one, and proceed to have the charge sheet in its present ridiculous form read, and the accused person admitted to reasonable bail terms.
100,000 shillings, one surety of similar amount. The alternative gives a cash bill of 60,000 shillings and 2 contact persons to ensure the attendance of the accused person, mentioned on the 18th day of June for pre-trial. You shall be supplied with all the documentation the prosecution intend to rely on.
Clinical officers on Tuesday held a demonstration at the Green Park bus terminus in Nairobi, demanding better pay and permanent and pensionable terms. The workers say they have been on contract for the past 4 years and are paid a quarter of their counterpart's salary on permanent terms. The demonstration was attended by the UHC workers from Nairobi, Kisii, and Machakos branches. The national government was expected to extend the contract by an additional 2 years, and for this reason, the workers marched through the streets of Nairobi to protest against the plan.
tukiwa hapa kwa Wizara ya Afya leo, hatuko hapa kupigana na mtu. We are here pursuant to Article 37 of the Constitution that gives us the right to picket, to demonstrate, and to present petitions to public offices.
Money that they are using to fly outside this country is enough to put these people under a medical cover. So therefore, we are not begging, but we are demanding that we must see leaders who prioritize their citizens. Yes. Not anything to do with business, because there will be no business if you don't invest in social capital.
The government plans to lay 100,000 kilometers of network within 2 years as part of strategies to bring internet service closer to the public. The Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, the CS, Eliud Owalo, also announced that business activities across the country would significantly improve due to this ambitious plan for free internet access.
As a student of strategy, strategic planning of any policy development has to be as participatory as possible. And what that implies is that as you do any policy document, the process has to be participatory and all-inclusive. And that is why the Ministry of Planning, in its wisdom, found it imperative to involve all the relevant stakeholders from Sierra County, as in all the other counties, during the planning process, so that the views of the integral stakeholders could go into that process. But again, as you develop any policy document, you need to be aware of the fact that you don't operate in a vacuum. And that is why the economist here for Ministry of Planning has aptly put it that the MTP4 had to be aligned to other relevant policy documents, because Kenya as a country also does not operate in a vacuum. So we have to align to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we have to align to the African Union's Agenda 2063, the East Africa Community Vision 2050, and of course locally here to our own bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which now informs the overall policy framework and development agenda for the Kenya Kwanza government.
More than 5,000 people have been forced to leave their homes due to the rising water levels in Lake Naivasha, with fears that the number might increase in the coming days. The most affected area is Kihoto, which borders the lake, with dozens of wells and toilets flooded, raising concerns of a disease outbreak in the estate, which is home to dozens of flower farm workers. Dozens of wild animals, including buffaloes and hippos, have also been severely affected as the flooded grazing lands near the river have pushed them into nearby farms in search of pasture. Already, one person has drowned in the estate after falling into one of the flooded wells, and residents are calling on the government to provide a suitable solution for the victims.
Tumeashumu na tumetembea manyumba imeshindikana. Ukienda nyumba hata haifai T-post. Kila nyumba T-post, tutaenda wapi? Sisi tumefurahia tumekaa hapa, tumekatalia hapa. Manyumba hakuna na wengine hawana pesa. Kila kitu bei kali. Rais wetu tunaumia sana, tuko kwa machi na watoto. Imagine mahali tunakaa choo imejaa, hatuna mbele wala nyuma. Na mkianza kutoa hapa mamili watu wamekufa hapa district itajaa. Hamna mahali pa kuweka.
Umeteseka kwa ajili ya maji. Karibu wiki mbili mwezi moja imepita, maji amejaa kwa nyumba zetu zote. Karibu nusu ya Kyoto hatuna imani na maji. Sasa tunaomba serikali tukufu tuonee masirai kama Wakenya wengine, hata sisi tutolewe hapa kwa maji kama saidi zingine wamesaidia. Shida nimepata kubwa, maji yaliingia wakati sikuwa hata nimekuwa nimelipa nyumba, ikanipata sina hata hera.
Kyoto area today is under distress. We are talking about around 20,000 people being affected by the waters, yet no any redress is being addressed here. So mine is to ask the national government to come in and intervene. The president had given some ultimatum when it came to Mathare area some time ago, and he said that people will be displaced and given some amount to relocate to other areas. These people have not been given anything, and no one is addressing their issues. We have pregnant ladies stuck in these waters. We have young children stuck in these waters. At the moment, we don't have any fresh water.
Kata kama mimi niko kwa hiyo serikali, kuna mahali mimi ninaenda ninakuta nimefungwa mikono, maana sina pesa yangu ya kutumia kuhamisha hawa watu. Mimi nifikishe malalamishi ya wananchi kwa wenye uwezo. Kuna ministry ya disaster ambayo ilikuwa na imejiandaa na pesa ya kufanya na kushughulikia maneno kama haya. Tunashindwa wamekuwa wapi? Ni mpaka watu wangapi watakapokufa ili sasa serikali ianze kuona ya kwamba kuna hatari hapa katika watu wa Kehoto. Hawa watu zaidi ya 5,000. Mimi ukiniambia ni wabebe, hata kuwabeba enyewe tu niseme nitawabeba, labda nifikirie kwa doto kuwabeba, sababu siwezi. Tunashukuru governor kwa sababu amefanya juhudi kupatia water guards, na ninataka kukuambia watu hawa unaona hapa, hata hii samaki wanavua hapa yote ni contaminated na hii uchafu yote ya choo hapa.
12 mpaka saa 12. Ukiwa nje usiingie pandi ama usitoke. Viboko zina randa hapa na nyati siko kwa wingi sana. Kuna pesa ya disaster management. Gavana Susan Keheka, mkuu na MCA na viongozi wengine, mko wapi? Sijui ni mnataka mpigio simu au endana mnagani ndio muweze kuwasikiza.
All right, let's take a look at the newspapers and what is making headlines. I'll begin with the Standard newspaper this morning that speaks of poor performers in civil service to be sent packing. Poor performers in civil service to be sent packing. The new guidelines, fresh rules on running of state agencies provide for rewards and sanctions against board members, CEOs and employees on performance with bosses below par, sent packing in year 1 and employees after 3 years. So this is the headline on the Standard newspaper this morning that speaks of poor performers in civil service to be sent packing. This in a bid to ensure service delivery in the country. So that is a story that is on page 4 of the Standard this morning that speaks of parastatal workers face punishment of poor performance in new rules. If a corporate underperforms for 3 consecutive years, the executive will be sent home. A reward awaits those who average 130% in their performance matrix. Now, the Kenyan government has issued new guidelines that give the president a direct role in the operation of state corporations. The guidelines, which were released by the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Felix Koskei, set a high threshold for state agencies. Employees with a record of 3 years of poor performance will lose their jobs. Now, the guidelines stipulate that chairmen, board members, chief executives, and all other employees serving in state corporations will be rewarded or censured based on their performance. These rewards and sanctions will align with performance contracting, evaluations, and scores. So this is the new rule within the civil service. Poor performance in civil service to be sent packing. If you're board chair, a CEO, managing director, in a company or a government parastatal that is not performing for 3 years consecutively, then you will be sent packing. And those that average 130% above matrix, that's like a perfect score, they will be rewarded. Also on the pages of the Standard newspaper, Ruto secures 31 billion shillings for Konza Digital Media City. Ruto secures over 31 billion shillings for Konza Digital Media City. In addition to that as well, Kenya gets 60 billion shillings Korea funding. So let's understand what this 31 billion shillings to the digital Konza Media City really means. Now, the Kenya and South Korea have signed a 63 billion shillings. That's approximately $485 million. concessional development funding. This includes $238 million, 31 billion shillings for the implementation of the Konza Digital Media City project. President William Ruto said the project would boost the country's digital ecosystem, a key government initiative aimed at expanding the digital and creative economy opportunities for the young people. Ruto as well commended Kenya, or rather Korea, for the Economic Innovation Partnership Program, which further supports Konza Technopolis. He made the remarks yesterday during talks with President Yoon Suk Yeol of Korea on the sidelines of the Korea-Africa Summit at the Korea International Exhibition Center in Goyang. So that also top of the page, 63 billion shillings for the concessional development, 31 billion shillings amount that will go into the Konza Digital Media City. So if you do the math, this is a total of 94 billion shillings that has been funded to Kenya from Korea. Now, Kenya's head of state wasn't the only one that was at the Korea-Africa Summit. There are also other African leaders, including Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan, as well as Rwanda's President, who was also present at the summit. Also top of the page, MPs want a review of new university funding formula. MPs want review of new universities funding program or formula, and that is a story that is on page 13 as well of the Standard newspaper. And you know, this funding model was also one of the issues that we unpacked in yesterday's newspaper as well, that spoke of a huge chunk of students now do not want to, pick degree scores, or pardon me, degree courses in universities because of just how expensive they are. And so MPs want a review of the new universities funding model. That is a story that is on page 13, but I'll be explaining about it a bit more on the Daily Nation. Also top of the page, Muguka ban battle splits Ruto's cabinet. Muguka ban battle splits Ruto's cabinet. The Muguka ban has exposed the wide divide in President William Ruto's inner sanctum after two CSs sided those advocating the ban of the scheduled crop. Now, who are at the center of it? Mithika Linturi, who's the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture. Eddie Ndwale, who's the CS for Defense. You've got Aisha Jumwa, who's the Gender and and Culture Cabinet Secretary. You've also got Abdul Swamad Nasir, who's the Mombasa County Governor. And so Muguka ban battle splits Ruto's cabinet. That's because Aisha Jumwa, the Gender CS, as well as Mombasa County Governor Abdul Swamad Nasir, and the CS for Defense have supported the push to ban Muguka. On the other hand, we've got CS for Agriculture, Mithika Linturi, who's perhaps advocating for a different solution. So the Muguka ban has exposed the wide divide in President William Ruto's inner sanctum after the two CSs sided with those advocating the ban of the scheduled crop. That is a story that is on page 8. The Muguka standoff continues to be witnessed across the country. Farmers who do the Muguka business, or at least business people that engage in the Muguka business. You've also got the cabinet secretaries and governors of Kwale and Mombasa who've banned that particular substance. And so where now does it leave some of these persons? Because as they say in Swahili, fahali wawili wakipigana nyasi ndio huumia. So what now happens to persons that engage in this business? There's been a lot of calls to ban that particular substance. And so there are basically almost three sides to the coin. So Muguka ban exposes cabinet rift as Dwale Jumwa back move. And following the ban on May 27th, the president met with Embu leaders and declared the ban null and void, decreeing that Muguka was a scheduled crop in accordance with the Crops Act 2013 and the Miraa regulations of 2023. The head of state said the Miraa regulations were passed by the National Assembly and the Council of Governors. Now, the president later announced that his government will pump 500 million shillings in the 2024-25 financial year for value addition of the scheduled crops as part of the scaling up of the aggregation, grading, pricing, packaging, and value addition. So if the head of state said this, then where does that now leave the CSs who are backing up that ban. Right, so that is the headline as well on the Standard newspaper. Radio presenter Jambi Koikai dies after illness. We ran this story a bit earlier on. Teenager in police attack lands in court. So that is how the Standard is looking like this morning. Now, let me take you to the Daily Nation, which also speaks of anatomy of a sick nation. Anatomy of a sick nation. Some of the most affected are HIV drugs for children, antibiotics and antidepressants. There's a crisis where the country's public hospitals are facing a severe shortage of essential medicines and vaccines, leaving critically ill patients without access to life-saving treatment. But Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha insists the situation is under control. But is it under control? Now, the amount Kenya still owes the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization for last year is at 1.5 billion shillings. Counties that had run out of most drugs as of last week, according to our nation's spot check, is at 27 counties. However, the CS for Health says, what drugs shortage? Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha told the nation that the shortage had been resolved with some of the drugs already in the country and others expected next week. She said the challenges facing the healthcare system are a reflection of the country's health supply chain being broken and vendor-driven. So, how now do we fix the country's health supply chain? Who are these persons that are in places where they are not driving the supply formula as fast as it should be? So the anatomy of a sick nation: patients suffer amid drug vaccine shortage in hospitals, HIV medication for children, painkillers, antidepressants and antibiotics are some of the most affected. Now, the country's public hospitals are facing those particular severe shortage, and if you are a parent, particularly for vaccines for young children or at least infants, there was a lot of I'd call it reaction, I'd say public reaction over that particular shortage of some of the vaccines for infants that was witnessed earlier on, as parents said, they would walk into hospitals but not find vaccines. Also, varsity funding, state forced to withdraw admission letters. Members of Parliament yesterday made Higher Education Principal Secretary Beatrice Inyangala commit to withdraw admission letters of students expected to join university in August and September until the exact amount the learners are to pay in school fees is established. Meanwhile, some 19,000 students did not report to universities last year, despite having been placed in what MPs attributed to inefficiencies. So the higher education funding model that deals with just the level of need in the family, or at least in the learner's life. Are you a family that is very needy, that is moderate, that is extremely needy, or that is okay? So band 1 tuition fee will be at 70%, tuition loan at 25%, and the tuition household contribution is at 5%. That is for those that are termed not needy. Band 2 is for tuition scholarship of 60%, tuition loan of 30%, tuition household contribution of 10%, and subsequently rises all the way to 40%. So close to 20,000 students didn't report to universities last year, and that is because this new university funding model does not really see to it that all students are catered for. This is because there are some that, have missed scholarship, whether it's from the government, the CDF, or even the HELB loan itself. So PS is expected to withdraw admission letters. And that is the headlines, or those are the headlines on top of the Nation, including man accused of beating up an officer charged with violent robbery. Gone, not forgotten. Jalav as Njambi takes her final bow. Charlene steps on toes with Should Kitui MPs criticize initiative by the president's daughter to gift pupils from needy families with shoes. Also, reject tax bill, more than 500 groups and banks tell MPs. Now, to the Star newspaper that speaks of counties blow 146 billion shillings on pay, projects suffer. Counties blow 146 billion shillings pay, and the projects will suffer. Now, that is the headline on the Star newspaper, which speaks of only one has spent 50% and above on its development in 9 months. And so that is a story that is on page 4 to 5 of the Star newspaper this morning, that speaks of counties blow 146 billion shillings on pay and projects will suffer. Now, details have emerged on how most governors spent billions on salaries and non-essentials such as travel and hospitality while neglecting development. The latest expenditure report by the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, reveals that the counties have spent 44.89 billion shillings on development in the first 9 months of this financial year. This translates to 16% of the budgets of the devolved units. This is compared to 146 billion shillings, or equivalent 54% used on personnel compensation, that's salaries, wages, allowances. And so despite the consistent warnings about counties turning into salary bureaus, the new report shows the trend is rising. Now, that lays the picture of where we are now as a country with our devolved units who are spending more on salaries and wages and allowances, contrary to spending much on development. If you're having 54% going to remunerations and 16% going to development, raises a big question of how soon will some of these counties see proper development taking place? But also it's a tough balance because the counties also looking to how can they now reduce the wage bill. And that's the biggest challenge for most of these counties, the wage bill that continues to cripple them because they're not bringing in enough revenue. They have also to depend on funding from the national government. They're not completely independent, and it's a question of will they ever be really? Is that what the Constitution, or at least devolution, envisages, that in future it has to be a county remunerating enough, or at least accumulating enough revenue, and not fully 100% as well depending on the national government. So the report reveals that only one county has spent 50% and above on its development budget in 9 months, and that is Narok County. Shockingly, 19 counties have spent less than 20% of their budgets on development. Kisii has spent 5.7%, Nairobi has spent 9%, Mombasa has spent 7.7%, Taita Taveta has spent 7%, Embu 6.1%, while Busia at 15.3%, Kericho has spent 6%, Baringo 17.8%, Nyeri has spent 14.5%, Bungoma 11.7%, Kakamega 14.6%, and Turkana at 20.4%. So counties blow 146 billion shillings on pay, and projects continue to suffer. Also, top of the page, if you can see Eric Omondi, the comedian who has perhaps turned activists nowadays. Eric Omondi, Mama Mboga take their displeasure to MP's door. This is just amongst one of the many protests that he has been onto. And that is a story that is on page 2 of the Star, where, Eric Omondi has, often more than not been at the center of quote-unquote revolution, calling for accountability, responsibility from members of parliament on various issues. He has also been at the center of contributing to development of some, initiatives in some of the counties, or at least some of the stories that have been able to be at the limelight, and he's been at the center of it as well. So Eric Omondi, Mama Mboga take the displeasure to MPs door. Also, student who assaulted cop denies robbery with violence charges. In fact, he says he was molested and harassed by police officers, as he continues to be charged with to be charged in the court of law. Medicine or plain chalk farms one of bogus drugs. Swollen Lake Naivasha drives over 5,000 people from their homes. State House, Ruto's office, big spenders on hospitality. So those are the headlines on the newspapers this morning. The Star, speaking of counties, blows 146 billion shillings on pay. The Daily Nation speaks of anatomy of a sick nation, shortage of drugs, clinical officers on strike. We just, a few weeks ago, saw an agreement between medical officers and the government that is on that was on strike. The medical officers team that was on strike, they had an agreement, but there's still some issues that continue to pend in the health sector. And the Standard speaks of poor performers in civil service to be sent packing. Those are your headlines. What else does she do? Who else is she?
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Trace Kimani, but Joyshila also. I'm a student at Deakin College, pursuing diploma in cosmetology. I'm a dancer, that's just a part-time, and I love modeling also. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so let's talk about the modeling journey, because you're still a student, you're also a dancer, you're basically gifted in so many different ways. So what point did you realize that this is something you wanted to do and a career that you wanted to pursue? Where did it start from? What ignited it?
I started my modeling when I was a young lady, where I was just a kid and I was just working at home, doing some fashions at home. So I was like, I can model. So I started my modeling in primary school, my Dynamic Destiny Junior Academy, where I was the Miss. And when I went to high school, I proceeded again, and I went to Kaharo Girls High School. I interacted in the cultural weeks, those ones, and I became also the Miss. After high school, I was just at home. Then my area is in Mwihoko, so I heard there is a pageantry where they are vying for Miss and Miss Mwihoko. Yeah. So I decided to just participate, because I was just I've never modeled out of the school. So that's where my journey started, 2023, and I became the first Miss Mwihoko. That was my first title out of the school. Yeah. Then after that, last year, December, I modeled in Deakin College, the Githurai campus. I became the Miss Deakin. Then on last week, 24th, last month, 24th, we modeled all the campuses, and I was crowned the Miss Deakin, all the campuses.
For all the campuses
all the
of
campuses,
Deakin
all the 6 campuses. Yeah.
Riley, let me take you back to that first event that you did, which was Miss Mwihoko.
Yeah, Miss Mwihoko.
How were you feeling at that moment? Because it's like your first time doing something new. Yeah. And we all know it can get, quite nervy. You've got a lot of nerves. You're anxious. But how was it for you? And what sort of mentality did you go with to that particular event?
First, it wasn't easy, because like you have just finished your high school in March, then there is an event on December, and I was 17 years that time. So it's like all the people are contesting have 3 years of experience, 2 years, 1.5. So I was the only child there, and so I was like, will I win? How will it be? But I just said, let me just model, because I never know. Yeah, so it was tricky. But all in all, I became the winner.
What does it take to prepare for a modeling event? What are some of the things that somebody needs to do? What are some of the things they need to engage in? Who are the people they need to talk to as they prepare for that kind of event?
When you're a model, I hope that just have a passion where nobody has forced you to do that event. So when you are applying for a modeling pageantry, just go to the trainings where you are going to register certain amount, and after that you are going to be attending the practices. Then be aware of the categories where you are going to participate with, and also know the designs which you are going to wear, and also be unique. Like if the categories are like fashion, there is professional, creative wear, just be unique so that nobody will think like you in the categories. Just be you.
For the trainings, what exactly happens in that training? For somebody that would be hearing the training for the first time, or is expecting to go for a training for the first time, what happens in that training?
In the training is where there is it is a teacher, like you don't know how to model, so that teacher just trains you everything so that you may be perfect. Yeah.
So after Miss Mwihoko, there was a bit of a gap as well before you went to your next
last year
event. So what happened in between that period? You know, were you receiving like invitations? Were you expecting an event that is coming up for you that will be able to go and be part of? So explain to us how that period was, because you've done Miss Mwihoko, you've been crowned the champion. And so how was that now after the event?
After the event on December, I had a whole year whereby I was doing my projects, and I had listed my various projects which I'm going to be doing, and also I've been interacting with the leaders in our area and also in the Githurai. Yeah.
Right. Now, for Miss Deacon, obviously because you know you're in the school, how different was it in terms of preparation from the first time you ever did it? Was there something that you did different that you thought, this is something I need to correct, contrary to what I did the first time?
The Miss Deacon or the Miss Mwihoko?
If you compare Miss Deacon and Miss Mwihoko, Miss Mwihoko was your first time. Miss Deacon was your second time. What are some of the things you'd said you'd improve on or you'd change and do better than what you did the first time?
There's a big difference, because the first event was like the second event. Because the first one I had tension, I don't know what I'm going to do. So the second event I became familiar with the modeling runways and what. So I just had improved in hiring clothes which are more fashionable.
Especially the hiring of clothes, you know. You need a budget, don't you, for that?
Yeah, it's so expensive.
Very expensive, So how do you manage?
I just have my designer. It's called Omedi Designer from Eldoret. So like when I have an event, I just contact him. I tell him I have this. Do you have a professional wear? Do you have this? The traditional wears. He tells me the price. So when the days arriving, I just go to the town and take my packages.
But there are those who perhaps do not have designers. What would you advise them that they should be doing? Because obviously you've had experience, you've worked with other people in the same events. There are those who do not have designers. In cases of that, either they cannot afford or they just don't have people that can do it for them. What would you advise them to be doing?
It's not a must you hire clothes, just start from a low stage. If there is a traditional wear, you can just use like laces, just something which won't cost you a lot. Then the professional, just be unique, don't wear like doctors, just be some categories which somebody cannot think about it.
Okay, now let's talk about the model that you are. There are various types of models. There are those that are the commercial models, the runway models, any other modeling type that there is. So for you, what do you do now? And is what type of modeling for that matter? And is this the type that you expect would go on for you in the long run?
There are various types of modeling. There are the professional modelers, the pageantry, the build-ups, the commercial ones. So like on my side, I'm a pageantry where I just do runway walks. I have not yet advanced to the high fashion where I'm going to wearing the clothes and just walk.
Is that something that you've thought about doing?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm just waiting for the time.
Getting the experience. Who has been very instrumental for you in this journey in terms of giving you that experience and advice on what to do, what not to do? Who would you say has been very instrumental for you so far?
My role model is Lupita, but the mentor who mentors me in what we're going to wear, I have an event, advises me, he's called Jovial Dickens. He's a model also, so like he mentors me a lot because he has been in this industry for a long time.
What is it that he once taught you and you sat back and thought, oh, so that is what should be happening, or that is what happens? What is it that was very key for you if you can look back?
To believe in myself, because that time I was young. So it's like I'm competing with somebody who are above 20s. I'm just a teenager. So it's like in a panic. So he told me, just be you, don't look at the age, you just walk, have the clothes, have what, just walk and be confident.
And you know, for models, there's always something they stand for, because there are those that, you know, are passionate about climate change. There are those that are passionate about maybe women empowerment. There are those that are passionate about men empowerment. For you, what is it that you're passionate about, and what are some of the things that you hope through modeling you'll be able to change and impact the society?
My aim is children's home, whereby I'm seeing that there are many people who are needy and they need our helps, and also the elderly. So like my many projects are based on the children's home and also the elderly. Yeah, I just help them.
What is it that, what is sort of like your slogan? What is it that you model and you know, some of the, you know, I'd say societal projects that you work on in terms of children homes and elderly homes? What are some of the things that you tell people to do out here?
Basically in the children's home, I just tell people to donate things to the children's home, just give them the love, because these people are lacking love, the parental guidance. So like I just come with my people, we go to that home, we just play with them the whole day and they feel loved. Yeah. And also the elderly, so many of them, they don't have those people, like the children, the grandchildren. So like we just go there, give them some laughter and also massage them, because I'm a cosmetologist. So like I just massage them. They feel loved. You're a
cosmetologist. Yeah. Congratulations about that, such a big thing.
Yeah.
So if you look in Kenya right now, the modeling world and where we are now, what are some of the things that you'd point out and say that's good progress, and what's not progressing at all in terms of just the modeling industry in Kenya? Are they receiving the enough support that they need to be received in terms of having, you know, media invites, having events where even you can go and participate in, and you are looking at some of those that have been more experienced in the industry? What is it that is happening and what is not happening?
What's happening in the modeling industry? Many people have accepted themselves and are competing, but the thing that is not happening in industry, it's we don't have a CS like the sports. There is CS of sports, and also we as the models, we don't have somebody who can run to the office, tell them this and this and this. So I would just add it that the government to look in the modeling industry, because modeling has money, but many people doesn't know that. Yeah.
And you know, you're quite right, because it's not a typical career that, you know, a lot of African households have grown up to say, you know, when my child grows up, this is what I want them to be. And so should that be the future in such a way that when people see that there are policies within institutions that are meant to govern us, and there are policies where they can say we are supporting the modeling industry with this amount of money, does that now boost modeling as a career or as a profession for a lot of young people who would want to do that?
Like for me, modeling is like a career, though it's like a part-time, because see I'm studying. So like I'll just add people to know their talents and what they want. Because if you want modeling, come and join us. You'll just model, go to various events, and you never know your luck. Yeah.
Now that you're a student, how do you balance between, you know, doing pageantry and as well as your studies? How is that balance? How do you balance?
Let's say it's kind of hard, but not really, because like you might find from Monday to Friday you're at school, then there is an event in the middle of the week. So like you're just like, am I going to miss the class? What am I going to do? So like I just talk to my lecturer teachers, Mr. Willie. I tell him I'm in an event and I just need a permission. And also I'm just balancing the professional, which is the modeling, and also the studies. I just balance it. Yeah.
Is that one of the biggest challenges for you as a model?
Yeah, it's one of it. Yeah.
And I can think of, you know, so many other who are in your position as well, because, you know, when you're going to campus is when you've got those opportunities really coming up, and you try to balance. And so for those that are your colleagues as well, in campus or even in any other place, but they're just also students as well, Apart from that schedule, what would you say is also one of the biggest challenges that you share across the board?
Challenges, maybe when you're contesting, you don't have certain money, and it's a must. You want this cloth, but the money is a big problem. So the biggest challenging of the models, me personally, it's hiring clothes, because like the money in this economy, you see, and you must be fashionable in the modeling runway. Yeah.
Let's talk about your future now. Where do you see yourself? You know, I wouldn't say 5 years, but maybe in a year or 2 years. Where do you see yourself in terms of what would you expect to have improved on yourself? Some of the people that you hope, you know, you'll be able to meet in the industry and they can, you know, collaborate with you, they can give you some advice and share some, you know, bit of opinion as well about the modeling industry. Where do you see yourself?
I just hope for the best, because like I have many aim and also to have an achievement in this modeling career. As I said, I'm a young lady, so like I'm just hoping to compete in certain pageantry, and also I'm aiming for the high fashion modeling, where like I'm going to just find a designer where I'm going just to model his or her clothes. Yeah.
Now, because of the essence of time, let's speak about your parents, the parental support. Have you felt it over the course of your journey so far?
Yeah, my parents are the biggest support system in my life, because like they know I love modeling. So like when there is a aunt, tell them, Mom, Dad, I'm competing in this event. They're asking me, what kind of money do you want? Where is it? What do you want to support us? Even though they are not models, I'm the one who are model. So like, yeah, they support me, because they tell me, just believe in yourself. Don't look at the age gap we are going to go. Just be you. Yeah.
As we wind it up, maybe you can give them a shout out, as well as to all those who have been very instrumental for you in supporting you. You can just look at the camera.
I would like to greet my parents back at home, Peklin Kimani and Moses Kimani, and to thank you for being there for me and be my support system. Because if they aren't, like I couldn't be here, by the way. And to thank you, and also want to shout out to our school, Deakin College, lecturer Mr. Willie, teacher Diana, and also our director Joseph Jenga, and our manager Melvin. And to thank you so much for giving me this chance, for being the Miss Deakin, the president of all the campuses. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Joy Sheila. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On your endeavors, and I really wish you all the best. And I hope that one day when they say Miss Kenya, it will be you.
Amen.
So congratulations and all the best. So that is how we wrap it up.